Howdy, homies. Today, I'm going to be attempting to remove what I believe is Elmer's glue from the surround of this Pulsonic cone G12M 75 Hertz Rolla Celestion T1221 with the 1023 Pulsonic 75 Hertz cone. Is that a long enough name for you? That's longer than PAF bobbin patent number decal humbucker, isn't it? I got some long names for this stuff. Descriptive though, sure beats the heck out of like a Bloombucker 59. Like who knows what the heck that is. And sorry if that's the name of someone's actual pickup. I'm sure it is, because pickup names are like band names and you just like you're gonna run out of them at some point. I didn't mean it towards anyone in particular. I thought I was making it up as an example, but chances are there is a Bloombucker 59 out there. It's probably some desirable pickup. So I think this is Elmer's glue, and if it is, warm water will be the ticket. What I'm trying to do, this is just a shop towel that I soaked in warm water. What I'm trying to do is get that wet, soften it, and remove the glue without further damaging the surround. And I don't know what kind of damage is under there. I'm not really sure what I'm going to find once I get that off, if I get that off successfully. I need a bigger screw than this to hold that down. But the speaker's unusable as it is. That glue is on the surround where it should be able to flex nicely. And I made another video. If you go back, look like 2 or 3 videos back, there's a couple about the speaker, and one of them is a nice close-up of that area showing how it doesn't flex and it creates buzz, and it actually creates coil rub because it's holding this part of the cone firm while the rest of it's moving. So rather than going up and down, this end is being held and it's tilting, and therefore the inside of the coil is coming up and scraping against the coil gap. So it's just a really bad situation, and it's toast right now. As far as pretty much, any speaker place would be concerned, this is a recone. And it might end up being a recone, which makes it worthless, because these speakers have like no sonic or monetary value over a new version once they're reconed. So I want to try and fix it. What I'm looking for here is a screw that'll fit so I can kind of hold it down. Maybe I can make this work. Just sort of wedge it. I've got some little holes that I use kind of as not for bench dogs, but similar. Yeah, that's not gonna work well. I'll keep looking around while I'm talking, because right now we're just waiting. Most places would consider this toast, and probably rightfully so, but I'm gonna see if I can get that glue off, because whether or not I can get the glue off, the cone's coming off anyway, right? Might as well try. I can't tell if that's softening at all or not. Might be. Let it soak a little more. You can see this piece of cork here is replaced as well. This is all original. And then this is a replacement, and then this little sliver here looks like it was inserted as original. Glue's still wet on that, or hard on that. So somebody did a really bad job trying to repair some damage to the surround on this. What should have been used, there are adhesives that are made to flex and never really fully get hard. There's one that's called, I think, E6000. That's a modern one. There is also numerous speaker doping cements from Keg and other such companies. MG Chemicals, I believe, makes some. And that's, if I can get that off, the Elmer's glue here, if that's what it is, if I can get that off, that's what I'm going to use. Some of that MG Chemicals doping cement. And that's exactly what that's made for, is for the flexing, moving parts. And it will always stay flexible, pliable. And that'll allow the speaker to do its job, move around. Now let me see if I can find something to hold that down with a little bit better. Trying to help you I just want to check and see if I'm getting anywhere with this. Yes. Can you see that? Got a little bit off. I think that glue is softening. Let me try and get some more here. Now, I'm not going to scrape it with a dental pick. That would be a certain doom. Get a lot of these wood chips. I always see that in Celestions. I think this doping was probably pretty fresh and still kind of damp. Or maybe it just got softened up under heat when they put the speakers in. And so from the routes that the speakers go into, or the hole for the speaker to sit around, you get this little like sawdust in there a lot. And that does find its way down into the dust caps, because these, does that show up on the camera? These are just mesh. And you can get debris in the coil gap right through that dust cap. And you will. Not only you can, you will. You find dust, it goes right in there. It would have been more beneficial for protection to have that solid cardboard or even aluminum, or but the and that does change the sound, certainly when you have an aluminum, and I think even when you have a solid, because Celestion, I think it was the G1265 that Celestion reissued, had a solid dust cap on it, and it didn't sound like the originals, and people didn't really care for them. And this is a little bit out of my element. Those are more of like a metal speaker that guys like with high gain. I know a bit about them. And the Celestion, at one point during their production, changed to a mesh dust cap like the originals. And now you can go online and listen to some tests. I forget the name of the guy who looks kind of like Penn Jillette and does a lot of gear tests. He's a metal guy. I'm sorry I don't remember your name, and I'm sorry if you don't want to look like Penn Jillette, but he has a really good channel, and I suggest if you know who I'm talking about, you check out his videos. I enjoy them. He did a test, a recording, I think, of an original earlier reissue, and then the corrected reissue with the mesh dust cap, which Celestion says is the only thing they changed. And sure enough, it did sound more like the original, like considerably. So sure, that can make a difference. I think the reason that they originally did it was just for cooling, because the coil in there is the part that burns out first, and that's why the 20 watts didn't do so well. And even the 25 watts, you have to run enough of them because that coil gets hot. So if they can keep it cool with the mesh on there, it's advantageous to the longevity of the speaker. Let's see how we're doing. I might replace this with some hotter water. Yeah, I think that's where the hole is, or a hole. It's probably split all around. Oh, look. We are making progress. That's... Can you guys see that? I don't know if that shows up. What if I zoom in? Forgive me. I'll make some adjustments here. See, I can't see the screen. as I'm working. Not very well. I have to get up on my tiptoes and peer over. So I need a better setup. I'm just using the phone mic. I have a better camera, but you know, like, it's like, do I want to be a videographer who plays with sound gear, or do I want to do my job with sound gear and also record it when convenient, as long as it's not disrupting my workflow? So you see this now? Making progress here. It is certainly softening. Don't know at all what we're gonna find. There's another rip there. I have to be very careful using this tool. This thing is likely just tore up all inside here. Yeah, there's another. It feels like Elmer's glue. It's maybe a little bit firmer, but it's only had water on it for a few minutes, and who knows how old it is. Just massive wood chip in there. Oh, there it is. That's been bugging me the whole time. Got that out. Okay, I'm gonna go get some hotter water. Be right back. Have my hotter water. Hotter water. Hotter water. Okay, while that's soaking, look, I happen to have here, let me just make sure I cover up the name, a package, which I believe has, I think it's an early 50s P90 in need of repair. Let's have a look at that. Gotta be multitasking when you're a one-man shop. Okay, here's a repair form. Also in a cover up the name here. So let's see, this says it is a Gibson P90 bridge from 1958. Seems microphonic, cracked bobbin, makes sound but no reading on meter. That's unusual. Harsh and brittle sounding. And this is from a Gibson 1958 Les Paul single cut junior. The guitar sounds very resonant, rings out well, and is vibrant. All right. I think I saw some photos of this before it came in. As you look at that, it's a P90. It's nice. Nice and clean. South up, north out, north out. Okay, that is as we want to see it. I'll turn on my bench meter. It actually takes a couple seconds to boot up. No, oh, this could be a problem here already. These things can get shorted. You know, there's not a lot of that black cotton insulation between the solder and this wire. Just this fluffy inner stuff. Clinaise, something, I think that's how they call it. 2.04 nanofarads. Did you think I was going to say kiloohms? Everyone loves kiloohms on pickups. Nobody cares about kiloohms on speakers. Nobody's like, hey, this G12M reads 12.75 ohms. I want one that reads 12.85. And rightfully so. This doesn't matter in either case. But this is toast, so 3 megs, which is really just means it's reading from my thumb to my thumb. 4 megs. Yeah, 2.1 megs if I squeeze them a little tighter, so it's an open coil. Now, it had a capacitance reading. I didn't do that for no reason. And the guy said it makes sound, but it has no reading. Likely there's a capacitive coupling in here, which means that this coil, unsurprisingly, since it's completely exposed, has one or likely more breaks in it that are sitting physically close enough to each other that although they're not electrically conducting, they are capacitively coupling, and so there's still sound coming out of it. So just like your bypass stages on an amplifier where you have your coupling caps, that's exactly what they're doing. It is mechanically isolating it so you do not have DC flowing, but it is capacitively coupling it so you do have AC flowing. And sound is not DC, which is a good reason why DC resistance doesn't mean anything regarding pickups. Sound is AC, so the capacitive coupling in a pickup like this means it's going to pass sound. Think about Roy Buchanan's Telecaster bridge on Nancy. That is the theory there. I think Tom Morello says he had a pickup like that too. Some people say Jimmy Page's pickup was like that. I don't believe that because Jimmy Page sounds like himself in any of the 3 positions in his Les Paul and on any of his other guitars. Now, yeah, number 1's neck is brighter than the others, but not so much so that it accounts for everything. Jimmy Page accounts for everything. All right. Yeah, let's give it a listen. Fire Princeton over here. Now, you still can't see it on this camera, but somebody in a video I did the other night said that I pointed over at my Princeton and called it a deluxe and referred to the 12-inch speaker in it. Actually, I understand why you'd think that, but there is a deluxe reverb behind the Princeton. You just couldn't see it at that angle, but that's why I said that. I wasn't talking about the Princeton, which is sitting in front, but the deluxe reverb behind it. So here's just my my real crude test rig here. This just goes over to my little, I think it's a 78 Princeton reverb. I'm familiar enough with this amp that by this sound, I can say that this sounds kind of normal. Maybe a little bit too bright though. Man, that's I'm just holding it over the strings of a test jig. That doesn't sound like there's really anything wrong with it, but we know there is. I have my suspicions. Let's try for simple first. There's really almost nothing between that solder joint and the metal inner core here. See how this is just little fibers? The insulation's black stuff, so it's damaged. It's already damaged. I do not feel any guilt in cutting it behind the solder joint in order to potentially repair it without removing it entirely. Those are the options. This isn't reckless. The options are remove all of it or try removing a little piece of it and see if it can be saved. I'm going for that second, less invasive option. Oh boy, this is really brittle. It's not in the greatest of condition, this cloth insulation. It's not dirty, but it is crumbling. Trying to remember to keep what I'm doing on camera. If I had a better setup here where I could see my hands in front of my face on a screen, it'd be ideal. Alright. See, all I did there was expose some actual insulation. Yeah. I don't think we've made a difference. No. 6 megs is not good. I'm gonna have to get under here next. Which is unfortunate. I was trying to avoid that, because that does seem to be the original tape. I'll try one more thing. We're really just waiting on that glue to soften up, so no harm in messing around here, right? Okay, I need my other probes. See, these are nice because you can swap the probes at the probe end. These are fluke probes, and I've got a whole selection of them. So, see, this guy got some big chompy jaws, and this guy has a little hooky jaw, a hooky hook, and yeah, no reading, total overload. I was gonna kind of poke around here in this area where it's damaged and see what happens. Nothing. Yeah, nothing. Brittle top. Nothing. Okay. Man. I mean, the course of operations here is to next disconnect the black coil leads from the hookup lead and take the hookup lead out of the equation and hope that there's something happening under the tape, that there's a bad connection here. That's not likely. I mean, we can see the ground is connected all right there. But let's try it. So we'll connect the hot here. Connect the ground right on the lead itself. Yeah, still nothing. I figured. So we can hope that the hot connection to the hot is failed under here, and that's the only problem. But if that's not it, the next step is going to be to take the tape off and see if the connection on the other side of this ground lead, which is under the tape around here somewhere, if that connection's failed. I mean, we're looking for the best possible scenario first. Ideally, we want to say, okay, maybe it's the connection that's broken is in or near the solder joints on the outside and can be fixed. But realistically, chances are with this exposed, it probably has lots of breaks within it. So it probably will be a rewind. But the goal is to not rewind anything you don't have to. right? I operate under vintage preservation above vintage restoration. Restoration is not the primary goal. This is just mummified. It's turning to dust as I'm peeling it back. Yeah, it actually looks like a pretty good connection from what I can tell. So I don't think that's going to be the case. But let's try. We're already here. We gotta undo this stuff anyway if we're taking it all apart. And you want to check in order of least invasive to most invasive. Now I can almost guarantee that when I put the meter on here, the probes, it's still going to reopen because that's how it is. But only one way to know. Yeah, it's still open. Okay. So we're going under the tape. I don't know if I'm going to do that here, like on top of the speaker. Not feeling that bold. Getting other little parts tray out here. Oh, these are definitely early 50s magnets. Let's have a look here. There's a learning experience opportunity. You see how this surface on the outside of the magnet is rough and crude, just like the bottom? And so is this. These are the south faces. Sorry, these are the north faces. I'll prove that. White up is north. It says that. There you go. White up is north. South is in the center. Well, if the bottom's south, what's the top? Also south. That's right. It's supposed to be like that. Now, on the south side of the magnet, have a look, and we're going to see something polished, I'm sure. Yeah, look at that. Nice and shiny. This is the only surface of these magnets on the original P90s that's ground flat. And that's because it's the only surface that has to sit flat against something, which is this steel bar that the screws pass there, the pole screws. You call it a keeper bar or a pole shoe. It's more like a pole steel-toed boot, not a shoe. And so now when Gibson invented the PAF, there was a second coil here with slugs. Otherwise the construction is basically the same. And those slugs had to fit against this side of the magnet. And at that point, the very early ones, 1957, and sometimes later, but in 1957, you see these same magnets with only that one side ground flat. But very shortly after, in 1958, you start seeing magnets with both the north and the south side ground flat. And here you go. I got one here. Look at this. And the reason being is that on a PAF, you have this slug coil, and this side of the magnet now has to sit flush up against the slugs. And if this is rough and uneven, there's loose tolerances on on the width of that magnet. And sometimes these can be really hard to get into PAFs. Sometimes they don't fit at all. And sometimes you see some that look like they probably were not ground down at the foundry, but maybe Gibson ground them flat to fit. Because it's just a different grind pattern on that side. Now, I happen to think that that's the prime reason why you don't see a lot of magnet variation in the P90s of the 50s. You do see some, for sure, not only in type, but also in dimensions. But then, after the PAF comes around, and not initially, but shortly after, around 1958, then we start seeing different magnet types. And I don't think that that was intentional at all. I think that my personal theory here, my speculation, is that exactly what I just showed. I think it was a physical fitment issue, and Gibson said, oh, we need more magnets that are ground flat on both sides to more easily fit the new humbuckers. So they ordered new magnets, and they got different types as they ordered them. Probably just as a coincidental factor. Now, you don't see the magnets change so much in the P90s at the same time. You still see mostly A3s that have that rough appearance. I don't know that those are A3s. Sometimes they're not, but almost always in that era. So that makes sense to me. Why would Gibson throw out their magnets? Because they didn't fit the PAFs. When they were still making P90 guitars, they just delegated the old magnets for use in the P90s where they worked fine. No need to do any extra machining steps to them. No need to lose the money spent on them. Just use the new magnets in the humbuckers and use the old magnets in the P90s. So that lines up with what I see in my research data for magnet types, where you see the P90s having mostly those A3s with that one ground side and the rest rough, all the way up to about 1959, at which point now the P90s and the PAFs start syncing up with the magnets that you see in them, where they get the same magnets. And so Gibson probably just used the stock they had, and that's about when it ran up, and then they started getting the same magnets they were using in the humbucker. There's no need to not use them. They just happen to be ground on the outside as well, unnecessarily, but one part number, it's easier. Now you see some of those ones with the rough north face. They do show up later, not regularly, but I've found one inside a factory pickup as late as well into the 60s. A factory covered pickup, I should say. Factory covered humbucker, I should say. It's a patent number decal pickup. Normally you see short A5s in those. That one had a long A3 that was ground flat on only the south side. It's an early P90 magnet. It stuck around at the factory. Somebody used it. This glue is softer, but yeah. It is making progress. Very slowly, though. Oh, that's some goopy, nasty stuff. I'm gonna get more. Well, I'm gonna get more hot water in a minute. That's how this stuff's gonna come off, bit by bit, and it's not gonna be pleasant. But if I can restore this with the original cone. Remember what I said about vintage preservation above vintage restoration? That is my goal here. Just like with pickups, I want to use the original part and have it do its job properly if possible. Yeah, that's gonna be a chore. Maybe you'll find this video sped up to make it less boring when it hits the big screen, which is like 62 inches in your living room. That's what it is now, right? All right, got some new steaming hot water. Gonna drop this in. But here's another repair. My son's bubble gun. Okay. We gotta glue this piece back on, which we will. You know what I use in my shop all the time? Not intravenous drugs, but syringes. We have nitro lacquer. We got some amazing blue stuff that I'm not going to tell you what it is. M Pro 7, which is a gun oil that I use for all kinds of stuff. Here we go. CA Kicker. That is the accelerator for super glue. Well done. Hey, you know what? I should have done this. I forgot it was a self-drying device. Okay. Just like
Yeah.